All right, welcome back to another video. I'm going to kind of shake things up in this video. So between videos, I went ahead and changed the topology and I set up a base configuration, but I kind of want things to be a little bit more relevant to the real world. Granted, it's not going to be what the test is like, but it's just going to be easier on the test. So adding a little bit of extra complexity in the lab, I think will just make me a better network engineer and make me more prepared for the test. And then when I get there on the test, it just makes my life a lot easier. So one of the ways I'm going to do that and kind of make this mirror the real world more is I've got this end device here that I imported into GNS, and it's just a Linux VM. So I can just drag it on there. And hopefully it'll pop up soon. Looks like it's not popping up. So I can try dragging it again, or I can wait. Number of things I can do. But I think I'll try dragging it again. It looks like I didn't clearly pop it up on the screen. So I'm going to be more careful about that. There we go. That I think was more direct. Oh, but it's still not showing up, so I'm not sure what's going on. Ah, here we go. So, well, I wonder if two of them are going to pop up now, but in any ways, let's rename this hostname. We're going to call it jump server. This is a term you might hear when you're in prod. It's just the management server. In fact, let's name it better. Let's name it management server. Oh, and looks like I did get two. They were just late to the party. So I only need one. I'll just delete this one. Oops, and looks like GNS3 crashed. But hopefully I can just open it and it will be fine. Okay, so yep, everything looks good. This changed, so we're gonna have a management server now. So of course I'm gonna need an extra link here. And I'll use the last link. And I'm going to start the tool here. Docker has returned an error, no such container. So there's clearly an issue with this image here. I guess I can try a new one. Docker is a container management software. So there's an issue with this VM. And it looks like when it created it, it didn't actually create it. So let's see if this one works. Hopefully it's just as simple as trying it again. And this one's very clearly not working. Aha, so yep, here we go. So now we've got a Linux terminal. So uname -a. So you can see this is going to be very helpful. We've got Python on here. It looks like by default it's 2.7. I think it's definitely the time to use Python 3. 2.7 is a bit old, so or it's going by the wayside. I did hear, this is just a rumor on this channel, but I've heard that there are companies that believe that moving from Python 2.3 to Python 3.5 is not as advantageous as moving from Python 2.7 to Python 3.5. They believe that that is not as advantageous as moving from Python 2.7 to a different language such as Go. I forget what the other one was, but that was really interesting for me to hear. And then, of course, you know, moving from Python 2.7 or just staying on Python 2.7 is the least advantageous. But it was just interesting to me that Python 3.5 was not considered as advantageous of a language to move to from Python 2.7 as other languages. I was really surprised to hear that. All right, so that might be kind of a portending of a future to come, but yeah, just, I mean, if you want to prepare, just check out the Go language. From what I understand, it's kind of ultra Python. So, but of course, you can just stick to Python. That's, I think, going to be popular for a long time. But here we can see all the modules I've got available. So I should have Paramico, hopefully. I do not. I thought I would have some, it would be preloaded with network automation tools, but looks like it's not. One thing I like to do to kind of see, another thing I like to do to see what's on here is do import OS, and then what's really nice about the OS module is at the very end, it'll tell you where it's located, because sometimes it's not, it's difficult to find, or just me being not super familiar with Linux too. Like, I've always used Windows, but another thing you can do, of course, is find-name, and then it's a regular expression. So I'm going to find anything named Python on there. So, and then of course it searches beginning where you are in the hierarchy. So let's say we were on Windows and I opened up my programs folder and I did this search. Well, I'll be searching everything in my programs folder. So if I want to search everything on the C drive, I've got to move to the appropriate place and search from there. Yeah, for the most part, I've found you can compare Linux to Windows. It's just they're two different ways of doing things, and each has its own advantage and each has its own disadvantage. Generally, for work stuff, Linux has a lot more advantages. Windows is mostly for the home user, and it costs licensing, you know, all sorts of stuff. Linux is open source; it's available for you to use. So, you know, what good is a it's like, you know, if you can't afford a car costs, you know, $50,000, but you can get a bike for free. You might as well use a bike, but Linux is more than just a bike. All right, so here's where I just want to see if like Paramico is installed. It looks like it's not, which I'm actually pretty surprised because I thought this was meant to be loaded up with common tools. Oops, and I closed my session to it. I'm going to rename this. Maybe that's why it wasn't working though. Looks like when I did the exit, I shut it down. So it's started now. All right, perfect. So now I can hit enter to get started, but unfortunately, it looks like there's a lag. Okay, so now I want to do Python 3, import Paramico. Nothing for Paramico for Python 3. What about Python 2? So help, modules, Aha, so we can see, yes, it's loaded up with network automation tools, but it's for Python 2.7. But that's okay. I mean, most of what you get in Python 2.7 is in Python 3, but often it's the case that it's just implemented better in Python 3. And really, I think you typically don't want your programming to be too complex. So anything that really makes a difference, whether it's Python 2.7 or 2.3, is perhaps beyond the scope of just simple network automation. All right, so I definitely want to kind of make things more realistic as to what it's going to actually look like. So I'm going to try to configure everything just from the management server. So in order to do that, I'm going to need to set up management networks. So it's going to be a lot more difficult. Unfortunately, it's not really going to be relevant to the exam to set up management networks, but it's just something that is going to give me much more overall knowledge in network engineering, and it's going to be directly applicable to the real world. Okay, so now edit unit 0. So we're going to want to pick IP addresses that aren't going to overlap with what's in the lab. So, oh, looks like we got some 10 dot addresses. So let's go with the 172 private address range so that for our management network, so that it doesn't overlap with anything else. So set family inet address 172.16. One thing a lot of people get wrong about the class B private network range is they think that it's, well, if you really want to get crazy, they think that this is the range for it. So that's not going to be the range. It's going to be /12. So it's going to be 172.16/12. So that means you get this for the network address, but for the broadcast address, you get 31.255.255. So that's something you'll hear a lot as well. You'll hear that the management or the private class B IP address range is 172.16 through 31. Well, it's not through, or sorry, through 32. It's like, well, no, 32.0.0 is not a part of that. It goes to 31.255.255. All right, that's just something anyone who happened to watch this channel, I want to make sure they walk away knowing that, because I have, yeah. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, right, so we're going 172.16.0.1 slash, and we could just do a 30. Perfect. So now I just need an IP on here. So that's going to be in the ETC network interfaces. So it's going to be cat ETC network interfaces. So I'm going to edit that using vi. Oops, and I don't get my arrow keys, which I'm not used to using Vi without arrow keys, even though that's, I think, typically more how it's meant to be used. So let's see here. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm not even sure how to delete with Vi, but I will need to. I can go into insert mode. Does that work? Okay, so I can do that. Okay, so this is going to work. Oh, and I get my arrow keys now so that I'm in insert mode. So it's going to be 172. Oops. 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 Yeah, and I'll do that a lot because at work I have I use auto hotkey, and I set up hotkeys, and one of the hotkey I set up was escape. So for Vi, I use control escape instead of escape, and yeah, that made things harder. I'm just gonna go in the notepad or nano because I want to actually do the thing. I don't want to do it exactly in the most efficient possible way. I'm not as concerned about as actually doing it. But yeah, Vi is something I would like to get a lot more comfortable with. It's just, you can see when you don't know how to use it, you can create bigger problems than if you did know how to use it. Well, in this case, I am going to use Vi because it's, and then you can see I committed a cardinal sin in working with Linux. I actually didn't back up my file beforehand, so none of these changes I can revert because I already saved the file. So yeah, that's not good. And I can't use my arrow keys in at all. So, oh, and then of course it's not controlled. It's, so yeah, kind of a big nightmare, but this is the point of doing this because I want to get better at this. But unfortunately, that's going to mean, but you can see here I'm saved because I've got the original file here because I catted it out. So I'm just going to remove that whole thing. Then I'm going to open it up in Vi. It's going to be blank. And then set paste, insert. There we go. I need an extra P. Whoops, and it's going to be just escape, not so. Okay, I don't know how to get out of paste mode now. I'm trying escape. I'm trying all sorts of things. Oh, okay, I see. Okay, so now that file is normal, so I'll show you kind of more what is the appropriate way to edit a file like this. So network interfaces dot back. So this way, if anything goes wrong, I've got a backup of it, and I will just be able to overwrite this file with the backup. So if I make a mistake in Vi, something like that, But for now, I'm just going to use nano because I don't need to make really complex edits. Oops. And yeah, I would like to get better in Vi, but it's just going to be a bit more of a journey than I really have the ability to go on right now. Okay, and it's going to be a /12, so 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, so it's going to be 240. And then gateway. Perfect. So now I can write this. And now I should be able to ping 172.16.0.1. Network is unreachable. Okay, so it looks like I don't have a route, which I would think that I would just learn it automatically. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but yeah, very clearly network is not going to be reachable if I don't have a route for it. So maybe there's something up with the cabling. Aha, so I think I found the issue. You can see I only had one port, but it looks like it's going to be port. Oh, okay, so it did say it was port 0. I thought this said port 1. Okay, so I guess I'm not sure why this is unable to. Oh, you know what? I think the port's not up, so I'm going to do ifconfig and take a look. Okay. Yeah, I think I need to enable that as well. Okay. So it's looks like ETH0 doesn't even. I think I need to do IF down ETH0 because it looks like it doesn't have uh, okay, let's see how to bounce an interface in Linux. So to restart an interface, it's going to be the command I entered. Okay, so it looks like I'm in Red Hat or CentOS. I'm not in whatever one that is. So I've got to use these Red Hat commands. So hopefully now it will have a address. Okay, so I don't see anything. And already I'm losing time, so this might really not be, because it's not going to be on the test. It's not going to quiz me on how much I know about some random distribution of Linux I found. So I wish I could figure out how to get an IP address on here, or even how to tell if there's one on here or not. It looks like there isn't. There's just IPv6, link local, FE80. So, I mean, you can see I'm assigning one to it, but I think if you don't bounce the interface, it won't take that assignment. Yeah, it looks like it doesn't have that assignment, unfortunately. So I'm not able to get, oh, I think this is the comment sign actually. Yeah, I don't know why they're telling me to put a pound. I guess they're saying this is what's going to be in there, but that was really confusing because this is just the comment symbol. It just means you can type in anything without it taking effect. So I don't know why they thought that was necessary to include. Oh, I guess it's because you'll be able to tell which version of Linux you're on based on that system. Yeah, so I really don't know why there's not a IP address here. I don't even know what kind of, well, let's start there. So what kind of Linux do I have? Perfect. So what version of Linux am I running? So uname dash srm. Here we go. This is what I want to see. So cat COS release. So, okay, it's Ubuntu. So it's JNCIE-SP. Okay, so configure an IP in Ubuntu Linux. And then I want to use the terminal. Okay, so let's try this. Sudo ifconfig eth 0 172.16.0.2 net mask 255.255.240.0.0. Perfect. So do I need to, okay, then I need to add a default gateway. So route add default gateway 172.16.0.1 eth 0. Perfect. So now let's see if I can ping. Ping 72.16.0.2. Perfect. Okay, so now everything is good to go, and you can see I've got a route because I set up that default gateway. I wonder how my, I mean, that's the way I kind of would have thought to do it, is just edit this file and then shut down and restart the interface, but apparently there was an issue with that, but I was able to overcome that issue through trusty old Google. So now I unfortunately won't be able to SSH into that yet, because I'm going to need to set up remote management. Yep, connection refused. But this is very much going to be a part of the test, so I might as well get used to it now. So here's all the options I can do. I can also set up like a tactics account on these, but for now I'm just going to have basic basic things set up. Okay. Whoops. Okay, so now I've got that. So let's see if I can, oops, I'm missing mandatory class. So edit system login, set class, or edit system services SSH, set. Okay, so we got to do a class name. So let's make a super user. Oh. So Aha, here we go. Okay, so this is what they wanted. So, yep, that looks good. I'm enabling SSH. I've got a new user named management. It's going to be a super user, and it's going to have a password authentication. So this is all I'm going to need. And I've got my keys. So, oops, it looks like connection is still refused though. So there's going to be more than just that required. I'll just Google it just for the interest of time. So set up SSH on Juniper. Aha, here we go. Perfect, tech library. Exactly what I wanted. So we're not gonna worry about Telnet. It's not a secure protocol, no reason in even trying to deal with it. Yes, it's a lot easier. Yes, there are situations where security is not as important as ease, but often there are situations where the extra security, because the security is a trade-off between, is a trade-off of convenience. The more secure you have something, the less convenient it is. But often that trade-off is so small, you're really not even giving up much convenience at all. So I wonder if I need a firewall rule in order to have SSH on here. Configuring. Aha, here we go. Configuring SSH service for remote access to router or switch. This is exactly what is needed. So to configure the router or switch to accept SSH access as an SSH as an access server, include the SSH statement at the edit system services hierarchy level. Okay? By default, the router or switch supports a limited number of simultaneous SSH sessions and connection attempts per minute. Use the following commands to change the defaults. Starting in Junos release 19.4 R1, you can disable either the SSH login password or the challenge response authentication by using the no, okay, that's irrelevant. Okay, by default, the user can create an SSH tunnel over CLI to the router running Junos OS via SSH. This type of tunnel can be used to forward TCP traffic bypassing any firewall filters or access control lists, allowing access to resources beyond the router. Use the no TCP forwarding option to prevent a user from creating an SSH tunnel to a router via SSH. Okay. So we're definitely going to want to configure, well, we don't even need root login, but here we go. So here's how you configure the version, client alive, fingerprint hash, SSH, I wonder if the help menu will have kind of the basic, because this is really not that useful because it's not mentioning the problem connection refused that I'm having here. So let's see here. Yeah, I might need to have a specific statement. So configure private, edit system services, SSH, set. Authentication order, password. So connection refused. So I'm thinking that's because there's not a firewall rule to have SSH be allowed from that device. So I'm going to do edit system security or edit security, and then edit or set, or actually it's going to be edit firewall. Firewall, family, inet, filter, allow SSH, and set term 1 from address 2.16.0.2, set term 1, then allow, accept, set term 2, then reject, and then edit interface 09, unit 0, set filter, input, and then what did I name it? Allow SSH. Oops. Well, what was it called? Well, it was called allow SSH, so, oh, reference input filter not defined. But you can see it is, in fact, defined right here. So I don't know why it's saying that it's not. Oh, I think I know why. Yeah, so this is a family inet filter, so you can't apply it to the logical unit. You've got to apply it to the family, which is inet. So hopefully this is what it is, otherwise I'm very, very stuck. Yeah, so I'm very, very stuck right now. So Juniper SSH connection refused. Okay, so it looks like I gotta get crazy because there might be some issue that is specific to it being a VM. So, but I can get crazy. There's no problem with that. It's just kind of unfortunate since I'm going to be studying specific things for the exam. So anytime I can't study that and got to study other things is always unfortunate. Oh, I've got a from .2 here, not .1. Hopefully that's the issue. Oh no, this is going to be. Okay, this one's got .2, so I do need to be SSHing to .1. I was trying to SSH to .2, but that's clearly not going to be right. And I think I do need to allow from .1. No, I do need to allow connections from .2 actually. So I guess I'm surprised that one thing I'm really surprised by is that, well, is it working now? Yeah, I'm really surprised by this no route to host message because if I do a route, it's got a default gateway. So even if it had no route to host, I mean, it's got a default route, so it should never not have a route to the host because it should just use the default route. So I don't understand that. This is .2, so one mistake I was making earlier was .1. Let's see if I can even ping .1 anymore. Oh, looks like I can't. But again, that's confusing because why am I not getting a no route to hosts there? Oh, I get it. So I configured .2 on here, but I also configured .2 on here. So .1's got to be somewhere. I'm going to configure .1. Oh, no. Yeah, actually. Yeah, see, .2 is here. So, yep. At least it's an easy mistake. So, easy to make, easy to fix. That's kind of the good news. And that's why, this is important. And these are all concepts that are going to be on the exam too. I'm going to need to be very comfortable in setting up user accounts, setting up remote access. All of that is going to be on the exam. And those are the freebies too. So the fact that this took me this long to do shows that I really haven't been practicing enough the freebie concepts. So here we go. I'm good to go. So let's configure everything from the remote server now. And in order to configure the other ones, of course, we're going to need to go and set up some basic things that we did on this one. We're going to need to enable remote access. Let's see here, show configuration, come on, show configuration pipe display set, pipe no more. So we're going to need to configure remote access. We're going to need to enable SSH. We're going to need to set up a user account. I'm not sure if we'll need the filter. I don't think we will, because it's by default, it's going to allow everything. So I'm going to delete that now. It was just kind of what I was doing because I was so lost for a minute there. Referenced filter is not. Oh, okay, yeah, because I never deleted the call, so now it's got a call without a definition. So there we go. And then we'll see, of course, because I'll lose management access. Like that's another really good thing this will demonstrate, is kind of cutting off your legs, like, and how that can appear. Well, yeah, you can see I didn't need that remote access policy at all. So yep, no remote access policy, just a description and IP address, SSH enabled, and a user account. That's all I need to set up remote access. So let's get on with the lab. And I'll read everything. So example, configuring internal BGP peer sessions. This example shows how to configure internal BGP peer sessions. No special configuration beyond device initialization is required before you configure this example. And this device initialization is something I'll be looking at as well. There's something called zero touch provisioning, ZTP, and that is having a device deliverable. You can mail it to your customer. Your customer, all they do is they plug it in and it's hunky-dory. So to do that, it's got to come with some special configuration already in it. But we can, of course, play around and experiment with what that kind of configuration would be. And definitely play around with ZTP concepts as part of this. Overview. In this example, you configure internal BGP, IBGP peer sessions. The loopback interface LO0 is used to establish connections between IBGP peers. The loopback interface is always up as long as the device is operating. If there is a route to the loopback address, the IBGP peer session stays up. If a physical interface address is used instead and that interface goes up and down, the IBGP peer session also goes up and down. Thus, if the device has link redundancy, the loopback interface provides fault tolerance in case the physical interface or one of the links goes down. When a device peers with a remote device's loopback interface address, the local device expects BGP update messages to come from and be sourced by the remote device's loopback interface address. The local address statement enables you to specify the source information in BGP update messages. If you omit the local address statement, the expected source of the BGP update messages is based on the device's source address selection rules, which normally results in the egress interface address being the expected source of update messages. When this happens, the peer session is not established because a mismatch exists between the expected address, the egress interface of the peer, and the actual source, the loopback interface of the peer. To make sure that the expected source address matches the actual source address, specify the loopback address, interface address in the local address statement. So this is huge. This is what I've been talking about in all the previous videos. This is what we did the next hop self policy to do. It looks like you don't need to do any of that. You don't need to send up all that extra configuration. You just need one command, and that's the local address command. You can save yourself everything with that next hop self policy in just one command, solve that issue. And then you won't have to distribute extra routes into BGP. This is going to be a really important statement to include for IBGP. As IBGP supports multi-hop connections, IBGP neighbors can be located anywhere within the autonomous system and often do not share a link. A recursive route lookup resolves the loopback peer address to an IP forwarding next hop. In this example, this service is provided by OSPF. Although interior gateway protocol IGP neighbors do not need to be directly connected, they do need to be fully meshed. They do need to be fully meshed. In this case, fully meshed means that each device is logically connected to each other device through neighbor-peer relationships. The neighbor statement creates the mesh. Yeah, and I've been for a while, so it's not going to work long term. I am moving to a standing position. Please bear with me for a moment because my sitting position has expired. But luckily, it's as easy as just going into the next room, plugging my fickle laptop with a battery that no longer really works into the wall, and continuing to read. The requirement for a full mesh is waived if you configure a confederation or route reflection. After the BGP peers are established, local routes are not automatically advertised by the BGP peers. At each BGP-enabled device, policy configuration is required to export the local static or IGP learned routes into the BGP routing information base, RIB, and then advertise them as BGP routes to the other peers. BGP's advertisement policy, by default, does not advertise any non-BGP routes, such as local routes to peers. In the example network, the devices in AS17 are fully meshed in the group internal peers. The devices have loopback addresses 192.168.6.5 and so forth. Okay. So yeah, really good thing that I am using a management server now, because obviously I wasn't quick enough with that login, and I had to use Google, which I'm not going to have during the exam. So really good practice with that. So now I'm going to configure router A, and then I will be moving on to router B and C, and hopefully trying to continue the principles of learning more than just the topic of hand, learning everything I need for the test, and kind of mimicking prod. So configure. Fortunately, I probably will have a little bit of extra lag though. Private edit int 000 units. Oh, and here the documentation is making a mistake again. You can't use unit 1 unless you are doing something like VLAN tagging. So you have to use unit 0, and I can demonstrate that. Oh, right, I'm in edit mode, not set mode. See, so only unit 0 is valid for this encapsulation. So you've got to change the encapsulation. I'll show you all the different kinds that are available. So edit int 000, set encapsulation. One of them is going to be and actually the so here you can have per unit Ethernet encapsulation. So you can have any of these per any unit. I don't see any reason you would ever not want to do flexible Ethernet services on there. But you, of course, have the option of anything. So virtual private LAN service, so Ethernet, oh wait, no, sorry. I think for just setting up VLANs, you don't need, it's not going to be under encapsulation, it's just going to be, yeah, VLAN tagging. So perhaps that's a kind of encapsulation, but it'll allow you to set up a unit 1. But it will only allow you to do that. So show pipe compare, there we go, commit check. So it'll only allow you to do that if you specify a VLAN ID. So edit interfaces G000 unit 1 set VLAN ID 1. So here, if I do a commit check, the configuration check succeeds. But I don't think this is enough of an issue to submit to Juniper. I have submitted it before. I don't need to submit it on every single one, so I'll spare them that and just move forward. But anyone watching this channel who wants to go through, you're not going to be able to use unit 1, which is unfortunate because it just makes learning harder. There almost comes a point really where in order to learn, you have to have already learned the thing you're trying to learn. And that's just, I've encountered that so much working towards my certifications and stuff. It's like, if I knew how to do it, you know, I could already be passing the exam. And it's like like setting up GNS and stuff. It's like, in order to have the opportunity to learn something, you have to have already learned the thing you're trying to learn. It's just, but that's why it's really important to have like somebody you can reach out to who's been there and kind of has figured it out, because those situations are all too often. In fact, most of learning, I think, is like that, where in order to learn it, you have to essentially have already learned it. So since you haven't already learned it, you've got to learn it from somebody else who has already learned it. That's kind of the point of learning. It's something that you could not figure out yourself. It's something that you're going to learn and figure out through the learning process instead of through experience or something. All right, so edit protocols, BGP group, internal peers, set type internal, set description, connections to B and C, set local address. So here's that important IBGP one. That means we're not going to need the next hop self policy, because we can just use that. I kind of wish I still had that other topology so I could go and play around with that. And I actually can have multiple topologies. It's just a matter of how much disk space I have on my server, which I opted to not have that much because I just didn't think the extra expense was worth it. But I would recommend somebody else, yeah, maybe pitch in a few extra dollars and get more disk space, because that means you can have more saved labs in GNS and not worry about running out of that space. But I have found I was able to have like a lot of extra labs. So I mean, in the future, if there's anything I find really interesting, I'll for sure do a save as and just save it as like interesting example and come back to it if I feel the need to. I just kind of wasn't really thinking about that at the time. Here's another thing. Term 2, what about term 1? I just don't understand this documentation sometimes. But I'm happy to have it. I think it will be helpful. It's all available on the CLI as well. I mean, hopefully you don't need a term 1. I'm guessing that's why they have it in there, because you just don't need a term 1. But I'd rather it were term 1. And then coupled with the mistake of using unit 1, it's like, well, they just obsessed with the number 1, I guess, which is a good number to be obsessed with. All numbers are good numbers to be obsessed with. All right, so this is good to go. Yep. I mean, I'll probably have some typos, but it's not going to be a huge deal. So now, device B, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to configure through my management server unless I have not only remote access configured on it, but I have my management network set up as well. So I think I'm going to say that for another video. This video has been quite long and I need a break. But in this video, we learned how to set up SSH for remote management on a Juniper. We got the official explanation from Juniper about how to handle your IBGP connections not knowing which next hop to use and using the wrong one because it would use the device's source address selection rules, which would result in the physical interface, which is not what you want. You want to use the IP, you want to use the loopback address. I mean, it depends on where your update messages are going to be sourced from. But if you're not sourcing them from the IP address that's going to be selected based on the device's source address selection rules, then you're going to need to specify where they're sourced. So yeah, I think everything's good to go for now. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.